in life are always worth taking. Love and money is always worth making. Just grab on and hold on tight. You're in for the ride of your life.
Hello and welcome back to the Beyond the Arc podcast. Dallas here, as always, joined by Levi. Levi, what's going on?
Living the dream, sir. Heck of a week for Tennessee basketball. Glad to be back.
Absolutely. And I feel like before we get off started here, I should go ahead and mention that if you noticed, last week's episode did go on Spotify, but also I was going to upload it to YouTube as well. I did upload it to YouTube, and it was about a few days later that I realized I uploaded it to my personal YouTube instead of the normal place where I upload the podcast. So that will be fixed this week on this episode. So no further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And let's discuss the Alabama game, another game where Rick Barnes' Vols hold the Alabama's offense under 80 points. The Vols win 79-76, held Alabama to 41% from the field and 37% from three. The game was close, really, due to the free throw line. Both teams struggled from the stripe, but Tennessee performed just a little bit better, hitting two extra attempts with both teams going to the line 26 times. One note that I kind of came out of the game with is if Dubar can give you just 2 threes a game, I feel like that's a good number. Two, just ask him, just go, Dubar, go out there, hit 2 threes. We'll live with that. I thought Gainey was excellent getting to the rim and pulling up in the mid-range. He absolutely ate Bama up in the second half, just snaking his way off a pick and getting to that elbow, little mid-range pull-up. And then finally, we got to talk about Jemiah Mashack. No player in the country deserved that moment more than Jemiah did. The shot, obviously, is the big story there, but the 30-second stretch of drawing a foul on an offensive rebound, making 2 clutch free throws to tie the game, tying up the ball, forcing a jump ball, and then the 32-foot buzzer beater heave, which was more of a shot than a heave, but the exact same spot that Chris Lofton took his shot to beat Texas over Kevin Durant. Just an amazing shot, and like I said, there's not a player in the country that deserved it more. Levi, what do you have to add?
Dude, I'm telling you, it's one of the best environments I've been in Thompson-Boling Arena. It was flat out incredible in there.
Jimmy Dykes said it was the best he's ever heard it.
It was incredible. I mean, there's times where I'm in there, even for bigger games, and you got to, turn around and look, and people are sitting on their phones. People are, twiddling their thumbs. But no, not Saturday. It was awesome, and I ended up about 7 rows down when the shot left his hand because I couldn't believe it was Shaq shooting it, and I was like, wait, and I took off running down the steps and had to turn back around and run back up the steps to hug on my mom and my girlfriend. So it was a heck of a time though inside. But just to go back to the game, I thought it was poorly officiated overall. The refs just kind of didn't control the way that they should have controlled that game. The Nate Oates, for some reason, is allowed to do whatever he'd like. Yell about whatever he wants to yell about. And then I don't understand how you miss the foul call where Mark Sears legitly just steps on Zakai Ziegler's foot and he falls down and we lose possession of the jump ball. But past the refereeing, it was just an awesome game. I thought we played pretty solid. It felt a little hopeless at times. It felt like they were going to go on like a 15-0, 16-0 run on us. But we basically made them play our game the last 8 minutes, and that's exactly what you want to do against an Alabama team. This is our highest possession game we've played all year, by the way, Dallas. I don't know if you know that.
I actually had not seen that.
Yeah, 75 total possessions. Typically in SEC play, we're averaging about 63 and a half, so you're looking at like 12 more possessions total. But it worked out in our favor, and I'm not mad about it. I don't know that Alabama's not going to lose out. I can absolutely see where Alabama loses to Florida and Auburn. I can't imagine having to end your season with at Tennessee, home against Florida, at Auburn. That just sounds brutal. But overall, you can't be mad about that game whatsoever, other than maybe a little bit of the officiating. But as you stated, Jemai Meshack deserved that moment, and the walk off was awesome because if I hit that shot, like I'm going into the crowd or something. But the way he hit that shot and just turned and looked at the Bama bench, just like, yeah, you thought. I also thought that Igor Milicic had a really, really nice game with the fact that we were able to just switch him on any screen. Same thing with Akpara as well. We were able to just switch everything that game, which definitely affected Mark Sears. And so on the broadcast, they call him Phylon, but the Bama announcers call him Phelon. So I don't know how to say his last name, but being able to switch everything really affected the game, and I was happy with it. And you never turn down a W, but it's really nice to have that W.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole entire game, it just felt like you said we was kind of trying to play to Alabama style, and then the last 8 minutes of the game, Tennessee said, "Okay, we're going to switch this up. We're going to play our type of basketball," and they wind up getting the lead and the win. All right, so moving on now to Wednesday night, we have an Ole Miss team that Tennessee is going to be traveling to, a team that has seen a dip recently in its offensive rating the last 5 games, going from 113.6 to 110.5. More importantly, however, the defense really has fallen off for the Rebels from 103.6 to 121.6. Chris Beard is a great coach. Not so sure how good of a person he is, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. Sean Padula, he's the guy here for Ole Miss. I feel like he's shooting 40% from three, 47% from the field, and he's also drawing about 3.3 fouls per game. Outside of Padula, it's Jalen Murray, Brakefield, and Dia. Those are the guys that you really have to worry about if you're Tennessee. As the metric says, Tennessee wins this one 70-65. I could definitely see that. Ole Miss is a place where Tennessee goes to, and they seem to struggle, but they also seem to win. I know everyone remembers that game down where Admiral took the questionable charge there. I'm not so sure how smart of a play that was, but it worked out. And Tennessee got out with the win, and the first time that a opposing fan base was throwing stuff onto the playing surface. Tennessee done the exact same thing in football 2 years later, and you would have thought we had started the World War III. But Levi, what's your opinion on this Ole Miss game coming up?
Yeah, Ken Palm has it 69-65. Tennessee win. As you stated, I don't like going to Oxford. There's just something about that place. It feels like every time we go play there, it's just such a weird game. As you stated, Padula, yeah, you got to run him off the line and then he's probably going to make you pay for it because he gets to the free throw line quite a bit as well.
Yeah, he's drawing 3.3 fouls per game.
Yeah, absolutely. As you stated, yeah, I mean, you can't. He's a tough cover, but I like our chances with Shaq on him. But overall, they're small, Dallas, so it's gonna be kind of a weird game, I think, because at this point we've played so many teams in a row that are, I wouldn't say bigger than us. I think we're quite a large team at this point. We're not as small as we used to be under Barnes, but this team's, as Coach Clark on 99.1 today stated, like this is probably one of the smaller teams that they've faced all year. So it's a different style of play. They got guys though. I mean, Jalen Murray can shoot it from outside. He's shooting right at 40%. And then as you stated, once again, Padula. So it could be a weird game where if they're just hot from three, it is what it is. Not sure what we can do to slow them down, but they don't play their bench much. Actually, they're 206 in the country, according to Ken Palm, on bench minutes, which is very, very high compared to most teams that we've played recently that kind of run a larger lineup and sub more. They also are not great at protecting the rim, so I feel like this could be a game where if we get downhill, we could be okay. But I've had a lot of questionable moments where I've said some things this season stating that we needed to get downhill more. But they're a good basketball team. They're 20-9, 26th in Ken Palm. It's one of those games where if you're not locked in, you could absolutely go lose this game, and which would be detrimental because I feel like if Tennessee wins out, regardless of what happens in Nashville, they're a 1 seed. So we'll see. Everybody has Alabama above us at 1 seed right now, but Alabama's not winning out. So if Tennessee can win out, this is a large game though. This feels like one of those trap games, and I hate to use that because I hate the phrases like peaked early or trap game, stuff like that. Don't like that. But this is an absolute trap game because you win this one, you're more than likely beating South Carolina at home on Saturday. So, but I also will say that one more interesting thing I noticed about Ole Miss, Dallas, is that they have a ton of non-steal turnovers. They're second in the country on non-steal turnover percentage, which means they force a lot of shot clock violations. So we don't need to get late in the shot clock on this one. It's going to be a big thing. I think if we run in this game, maybe push the tempo a little bit, we'll be a whole lot better off.
I agree. And I was reading a transcript from an interview Chaz Lanier done recently this week. He was talking about how he actually played 2 years with Dia from Ole Miss, and that Dia has changed his game a lot from whenever he was with them in high school. He said that when he was in high school, that Dia was kind of wanting to play like Kevin Durant, and now he's kind of became more of a traditional big. I thought that was an interesting interview. So if you want to go back and look for that, you can. I may try to link it in the description or somewhere. I think it was with Rocky Top Insider. But you mentioned the South Carolina game, Levi. I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. South Carolina is bad. I mean, I don't want to seem like we are overlooking them. I mean, the fan base, I feel like it's perfectly fine to overlook a team like this as long as your team doesn't. But they have been better lately. But Tennessee is favored 71-56 for a reason. Colin Murray Bulls is a great player, but I just don't think he's going to be enough, especially on Tennessee's home court. Do you concur with that, or is there anything you want to dig in? Or
As you stated, South Carolina's just bad. They're just a bad basketball team, but man, they played pretty well recently, to be honest.
pretty well
They're
recent?
it's hilarious to look at South Carolina on Ken Palm because they're 67th in the country and they're 12-17 just because they just had a terrible stretch through SEC play. Going into SEC play, they looked great. They looked like a tournament team, but in SEC play, but they whipped uh, Arkansas last Saturday.
They very
So
well could.
they were up 30.
They very well could be a team that makes a run in the conference tournament. And you
Mhm.
mentioned the conference tournament as well. I feel like if Tennessee wins out, and then I feel like they have to win one game in the conference tournament before I would feel comfortable saying that they would be the 1 seed. But I feel like it could probably happen even if you do lose that first game. But anyway, let's move on now to our hardly known Hoopers. Hit the music.
These people don't know who I am, man. But they gonna know who I am.
These people hardly know me though. Do they know me? Hey, these people hardly know me though. Do they know me? Hey, these people hardly know me though.
All right. I forgot to actually send my list over to you, but I have a good feeling you're probably not going to have this guy. I'm going with Josiah Miles from North Florida. He's a 6'6" small forward, good shooter, averaging 15 points per game with an effective field goal percentage of 52.1%. In his last five, he has a 3-point percentage of 38.5% on nearly 8 attempts per game. Statistically, he's comparable to Elijah Saunders from Virginia and Wooga Poplar from Villanova. He's kind of honestly reminds me a lot of Chaz Lanier. He's just a pure shooter, pretty fun to watch if you get a chance to watch Josiah Miles at North Florida. Levi, who do you have?
I have Neek Crawford, or I'm sorry, Clifford. I don't know why I said Crawford. I'm reading something else here, but yeah, Neek Clifford plays at Colorado State. It's funny, he started his career at Colorado, didn't really get a whole lot of playing time, then shot 46% from three his sophomore year, and then decided to transfer to Colorado State. I don't know why he did it, but I caught one of their games the other night, and I feel bad for the guy. He plays like all 40 minutes, like all the time. They don't have much depth at Colorado State this year, but really, really good player. Shoots it really well, right at 39% from three. Basically is their main ball handler. His assist rate is through the roof. In the conference, he is essentially the best player in their conference. So in the Midwest Conference, as they like to call it, the MWC.
I love the
But
MWC.
Oh yeah, it's great ball. I don't know if you've checked out Neek, but he's fun to watch, man. He's 6'6", and they just kind of let him run point guard like he's their small forward, but it's like, man, just give him the ball. So he it kind of reminds me of how Dalton was for us last year watching him play. It's they have a primary ball handler, but most of the time it's let him bring it up and then let's just give it to Neek and get out of the way and let him cook. So he's a really, really fun player to watch. I'm hoping to get to see him in person one day because I think he's an NBA level guy, believe it or not, at 6'6". I think he's got a really nice game. So he's compared to Kellen Grady, who played for Kentucky, and Davidson for a little while, if you remember Kellen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Can't remember what I was going to say, but anyway, let's. With that being said, let's
I
move
said
on.
Kentucky, and you spaz, dude. It's like a reset for you. If I say Kentucky, you just reset permanently.
But let's move on to the college basketball pick'ems. Levi, I am now 3 games behind. Only 3 games.
Yeah,
I
you've been cheating. So
I had a 3-1 week last week. You went 2-2, I believe. These are the games this week as followed. First, we have Florida at Alabama. Initially, I wrote down Florida on this one, but after a while of thinking it over, actually right before we even got on here, I switched my pick. Give me Bama. I don't see them losing the first game off that Tennessee lost, so give me Alabama to beat the Gators in Tuscaloosa. Levi, who do you have?
I like Alabama in this one as well. I don't see them beating Auburn, but that's a tough one, Dallas. This one's really hard, to be honest. I'm not really sure. I want to take Florida, but I don't know that. I just don't know that. I'll take Alabama. I'll just take Alabama since it's in Tuscaloosa.
Sounds good. All right, moving on. We have St. John's at Marquette. I really like the St. John's team this year. I think Rick Pitino has done an excellent job. He's kind of revitalized that brand. I'm interested to see where they go after Rick Pitino. But for now, give me the Johnnies to go on the road and beat Shaka Smart's Marquette team. Levi, who do you have?
I'll take Marquette in this one. I like Marquette at home in that game.
Gotcha. All right. Next game, we have Kentucky at Missouri. I'm going to go with the Tigers. Kentucky seems to struggle on the road, especially in the SEC. They've done pretty well in the out of conference, but in the SEC, they've struggled mightily on the road. So give me the Tigers and what I expect to be a high scoring affair. Levi, who do you have?
I'll take Kentucky in that one. Yes, I have Kentucky in that one.
Okay. Moving on, we have the Iron Bow on the court. Alabama at Auburn. I mean, what more is there to say? Auburn has just been dominating. They've only looked vulnerable a few times. I think they are vulnerable, but I'm going to have to go with the Tigers on their home court. Levi, who do you have?
Carbon copy, Dallas. Only one I'm going to go against you on this week is Marquette. So I'm with you on this one as well.
Actually, you picked Kentucky, so you're going against me on 2 games.
Oh, you picked? I thought you said Kentucky.
Oh, no, I picked the Tigers. I may have actually said Kentucky, but I meant to say Missouri.
Oh, okay. You said, I could have swore you said that you wanted Kentucky in that one, but
I very well could have.
All right. Well, I'll write that down just in case you try to screw me out of one here. Noted. Dallas said Kentucky, but picked Missouri. All right. It's in my notes now.
Okay. All right. With that being said, let's move on to our locker room cleaning update.
We interrupt this program for a special locker room cleaning update.
Tennessee basketball is now 1 win away from tying the best 4-year stretch in the program's history, which would also mean they are 2 wins away from eclipsing that mark. On Saturday, 5-star class of 2025 shooting guard and former Miami commit Matthew Abel took an unofficial visit to Tennessee for the Vols' big home win against Alabama. Abel told Rocky Top Insider that his visit was, quote, exciting and that he definitely wants to return for an official visit. After a strong summer, Abel went from being a 3-star prospect to a 5-star and the 26th ranked player in the country. He also plans to visit Alabama and Baylor this week, but it seems as though Tennessee made a pretty good impression on Abel. And that is all we have for this week's locker room cleaning update. All right, Levi, I have one thing I wrote down here that I want to take time to talk about. If we had time, it seems like we do. I want to talk about Kansas. They have absolutely fell off the rail. They're unranked for the first time, and I couldn't tell you how long. They recently just went on the road to Houston, which is not a embarrassing loss, but it's just a loss that kind of gives you an idea of where Kansas is currently at as a basketball program. What are your thoughts on the collapse of the Jayhawks this season?
So I think this started last year, and recently with the way that Bill Self and his coaching staff has went away from recruiting the way they used to. They used to go get hard-nosed guys that wanted to play defense, wanted to defend, wanted to be a part of Kansas, but they have so much money that this is almost similar to, you could say, Arkansas last year as well. When you have this much money, you can go pay whoever you want to come play for your program. Just because you go and sign the top transfer portal team every single year doesn't mean you're going to be good. So I think there's a real heavy problem there with the fact that they don't recruit like they used to, one. And I also just don't believe that any of those guys want to be there. I mean, you got Hunter Dickinson, who's, in Ken Palm, he's the third ranked like MVP player at the moment, which we've spoke our piece on Hunter Dickinson a couple times on here. But when you go and you just recruit guys that aren't really Kansas Jayhawks and then throw them out there in a Kansas Jayhawk uniform, it doesn't really work out all that well for them. So I think this is kind of one of the more fun parts of the transfer portal is every year there's one or two teams that just, the national media, which, by the way, Dallas, they were number one in the preseason poll.
Absolutely.
And they're flat out terrible, to be honest. They don't defend. They do defend, but not really. And their offense is just terrible. It's what happens. It's almost like an AAU basketball team when I watch them play. So this is just another example of when our fans are freaking out, like, well, why are we not going and getting, this guy or this guy or this guy from the portal? It's because you have to go into the portal and find a guy that fits exactly what you do. And Kansas isn't doing that. They're going to the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. I think that's one of their major problems is AJ Store. And they're like, well, he's the number one rated player in the portal, so we're just going to pick him. We'll pay him. So their boosters, I think, are hurting them more than anything at the moment. And like I said, it's the new era of NIL, and you're going to see teams like Kansas, Kentucky, the just larger teams are going to have more and more problems like this, to where they pick up one or two guys out of the portal that everybody in the national media thinks are the greatest player in college basketball, and it ruins the locker room. And this is exactly what you get. That's my entire opinion on that.
I don't think I could say that pretty much better. I do want to ask, who do you think fumbled the bag worse, Hunter Dickinson or Jonas Adu?
I'm gonna have to say Adu, but I feel like
Dickinson would have been the guy at Michigan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say I don't know that Adu would have even started over Felix at this point. Not the way that Felix defends, not the way that Felix can switch. Felix is very much a Barnes style player. You can throw him out there and he doesn't care to take a single shot. He's going to do his job and move on from it. But yeah, I'm going to say, as you stated, Dickinson would be the guy at Michigan right now, but would he because of Wolf? I don't know that he would be.
Well, would they have gotten Wolf if he was there? I think is the bigger question, and I don't think they would. I
don't know that Dickinson would have played too much for Michigan under Dusty. Dusty May.
That's
I
a
don't. I don't think.
fairly
I don't
good
think
point.
Dusty May would have cared to sit his butt on the bench. I think that Bill Self is basically a puppet to the boosters at this point because of the way they're making him construct his rosters. I mean, last year he had Kevin McCullough, the transfer from Texas Tech, who just decided that he just didn't want to play anymore, like right before the NCAA tournament. So I think Bill Self's a great coach, probably a top 5 coach in college ball if they let him. But I think the boosters are running that show right now, and I think that the Kansas boosters might run that program just into the ground.
I think they're going to run off Bill Self is what they're going to wind up doing. I could totally see him retiring, probably even at the end of
Well,
this season. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
keep him out the SEC because it seems like all the daggum good coaches nowadays are like, oh, I'll go to take this SEC job. So let's just hope that he doesn't end up somewhere in the SEC, which is
So maybe we should be pulling for his success just a little bit.
just a tad bit. I've always liked the Jayhawks, man. I don't know about you when it comes to the Blue Bloods, but the Jayhawks are like one team that they don't bother me too much. Now since they have Dickinson right now, it's a little annoying. But
I've
past
always
him,
wanted to go to a game there. I
yeah, the
think
Fog, man.
it'd
Yeah,
be a pretty
Allen Fieldhouse is definitely up there.
cool experience. I mean, outside of that, really, what does Kansas have? I mean, I have a theory with Kansas that
Sunflowers.
I have a theory that I probably shouldn't say on here. I'll tell you off there. I think if I say it on here, we might get canceled. But that's about all we have for today. I do want to give a shout out to Jemiah Mashak's biggest fan, Jordan Moore. I'll clip
Good
this
old
out.
Jim. Hey, I don't know if you saw, but Coach Clark called him out.
I know I'll have to clip this and send it to him. He won't believe that I said this unless I send it to him. So, with that being said, thanks for listening to the Beyond the Arc podcast, and we will be back next week. Go Vols.
Yes, sir. Go Vols.